Well, Durud, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Welcome to day 136 of Iran Revolution Live with your wonderful and amazing host, Mr. Armin Navabi.
And your wonderful and amazing host, Goldie Gamari.
Thank you. Armin, how are you doing today?
Good, good. Everything is moving in the right direction. Prince Reza Pahlavi had his political video, which I haven't watched because
Yeah,
I
I
went to
haven't
watch
watched that
here.
either yet.
Okay, okay. I like the white uh, jacket you're wearing, by the way.
Oh,
It's really
thank
good.
you. Thank you.
Yes.
I was doing something else and I haven't taken it off yet. So there you go. Going full
Yes.
fancy today. There you
Yeah.
go. And you have look. We're upgrading, Armin.
Yes.
This is season 2 of Iran Revolution Live. You have a collared shirt. I'm wearing a blazer. Look at that.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
Oh,
We're
you
getting
guys want the
serious.
flag? Someone's saying you want the flag. Yeah, I can do that for sure. 100%. I can definitely the flag's right here, guys. The flag isn't going anywhere. It's
Yeah.
right there. I'll bring it up in a little bit. Um but yeah, so Prince King of Pahlavi had his video today. I haven't watched that yet. President Trump is continuing to troll the Islamic regime on Truth
Mm.
Social. I don't know if you've seen some of his
Yeah.
posts.
I've seen the bing bing bang bang gun. No. Bing bing bang bang gun. I saw the White House posting them.
My gosh.
So
Yeah, lasers bing bing gone. Oh
bing
my
bing
gosh.
gun.
And then bye bye fast boats.
Bye
So,
bye fast food.
oh my gosh.
Oh my god. I saw the White House account cross posting it, which was amazing. Both of them at the same time in one post here. Let me show that. It was so cool.
Oh, here.
Oh, you haven't. Yeah, so the White House is posting both of them, and like this is guys, this is the official White House account, okay? Saying "Bing Bing gun." So, like, all right, back to you. Yeah,
No, that's
oh my
that.
god!
Yeah, I was gonna show the same thing. It's bye bye fast boats and
Right,
lasers bing bing gone. This is the yeah. This is the timeline that we're living in right now. So,
right,
and Armin, this is funny, but I have a feeling that,
right.
these are tongue-in-cheek comments. So I have a feeling that this is actually what's happening um
Mm.
in that area right now in the region. Obviously, we're not seeing like, lasers like this because I don't think it's, Star Wars, but um
Israel has lasers.
that's true. Israel does have lasers. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, who knows? Maybe this is a secret technology that the United States has that we don't know about, and maybe this is President Trump announcing some new secret weapon that the Americans have had. So there you go. But yeah, all right. Do you have the full video from Kingdoms of Pahlavi?
Yes.
All right, let's go to
Yes.
that.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, I didn't. Usually, I watch these things live, but I didn't watch it because I wanted to watch it with all of you on Iran Revolution Live.
Oh, guys, see, this is great. Goldie didn't want to watch it without you guys. All right, fantastic. So let's watch this.
A chance. Of course, it should.
Oh wait, why doesn't this start at the beginning? I saw this is 35 minutes. I thought this is from the beginning. Let me. Is there another account? Sorry, I thought I had it. I'm sorry, I failed you.
That's okay. We'll find it.
Yeah, okay. I'm just kidding. Let,
Um,
let me see. What the hell? Okay, political going down, going down, going down, going down. This was recent. Wow, they post a lot. I searched on YouTube. There wasn't a link on YouTube. Do you want me to play what I have while we look for that? The 35 minutes that I have? Or should I just go find from.
so let me see what they have here.
The hell? Where is it? 20 hours. Why is that not video from the very beginning? Maybe they started recording. Hold on, let me go back to this video. This was 9 a.m. May 12th, 9 a.m. Oh my god, I went all the way down and I'm not seeing it. God, that's the only thing out there.
All right, okay, so let's watch that, and then maybe the full version will come out, because usually he'll post the full version on his account later on.
Right. Okay, yeah, you're right.
A chance. Of course it should. But then again, don't we know by now the nature of this regime? Don't we know by now that in its DNA, it is incapable of coming to terms with coexistence with a free democratic world? It has as a mission to export an ideology. It is doing so by means of its proxies. And by the way, the proxies are not just limited to the Middle East. It's not just about Hamas or Hezbollah or the Houthis. They have networks and sleeper cells operating on European and Western Hemisphere soil, including the United States. They are using these elements to radicalize people, to brainwash them, to provoke even more anti-American sentiments here, and same thing in Europe, targeting various citizens of various countries on their own soil. This is part of the problem when you're dealing with this kind of regime. It's not just a menace to its own citizens. It's not just a menace to the regional countries. It is a menace to the entire free world. And therefore, when we say that now that you have a wounded beast, this is not an opportunity that you should let go. This is an opportunity to finish the job and get it over with. This is, I think, what is the expectation, not just millions of Iranians, but I think many countries in the region who now understand that there's no way possible to deal with this regime.
So to that point, I mean, the president has been giving signals that he doesn't want to escalate. He says he wants to make a deal. But from what you've seen and what you know of this regime, do you think that the U.S. should make a deal with Iran right now?
I don't know if you can ever, as I said, there's no way you can make a deal with a regime that is inherently incapable of saying that we are willing to give up everything that is the reason we still exist and think that they will be able to change their behavior. As a matter of fact, the biggest flaw in the rationale in whatever the foreign policy of so many Western countries have been, including the US governments, for years has been a change of behavior by the regime. In fact, when the sanctions began to be imposed on the regime in Iran, was with the aim of forcing them back to
What?
What was that?
I don't know, but they muted it. Like when that happened, it got muted. Hold on.
You can make a deal with a regime that is inherently incapable of saying that we are willing to give up everything that is the reason we still exist and think that they will be able to change their behavior. As a matter of fact, the biggest flaw in the rationale in whatever the foreign policy of so many Western countries have been, including the US governments, for years has been a change of behavior by the regime. In fact, when the sanctions began to be imposed on the regime in Iran, was with the aim of forcing them back to
she's saying, oh wow, so this person is saying, Reza, where were you when our people were pulling their children out of the rubble? So it's probably like a lefty or an MEK or an Islamist who's trying to blame King Reza Pahlavi for the conflict instead of blaming the Islamic regime for the conflict.
Why did they mute it? I want to see how Princess Pahlavi does a really good job in responding to this kind of nonsense. So I don't know why they muted it. I wanted to hear Princess Pahlavi's response because I'm sure he was going to do a really good job responding.
Yeah.
But it's muted. Why would you mute that? Oh no.
Explaining that for years, the attempt of appeasing the regime was the overall strategy of many governments. But appeasement has failed, and as a result, we've seen that the regime was to some extent emboldened. Previous administrations allowed the regime to have access to billions of dollars that they obviously did not spend on the people of Iran and their needs, but to further strengthen their proxies. All of that brought us to a point that it escalated the situation that conflict became inevitable.
Yeah, I mean, given what's going on in the Strait of Hormuz and how the president has been navigating the diplomacy in the last few weeks, do you think there's risk of that appeasement and emboldening Iran right now?
If you believe the fact that there still exists such so-called moderate elements that you could deal with, you're falling back in the same trapping that the regime has laid out for decades. It makes you think that there are some elements that are more manageable and more reasonable that can be dealt with. The problem is that such a thing doesn't truly exist. They're just people that ultimately are there to preserve the system. And yes, the regime has been weakened, but it's the radical elements that are the most elements in charge. And if there are any so-called moderates, which I don't believe they are, they really don't have a big role to play. So therefore, you're facing now a system that has become a de facto paramilitary dictatorship. It's the IRGC that controls ultimately everything.
So do you want to see U.S. boots on the ground at this point?
I think that the best way to articulate this is to say that, and that's something that we have said, that the boots on the ground in Iran are the Iranian people themselves. We don't need to have foreign troops doing the job for us. But in order for people to be emboldened and
this is what King Reza Pahlavi has been saying for a very long time, that you don't need boots on the ground because the Iranian people are the boots on the ground. And this is in line with what Mark Levin has been saying as well. And also Senator Lindsey Graham, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, and even Senator Ted Cruz have all been saying this as well.
Which shows that they must be in talking to each other.
Yeah.
On this topic. Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's this, and also, well, Prince Reza Pahlavi hasn't been talking about this yet, and I know why. But also, arming the Iranian people is also becoming a hotter and hotter topic, right? So you could see that the direction that everything is moving. I think we're now moving into more empowering the Iranian people to be successful with the upcoming uprising, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Have a fair fighting chance, unlike what happened in January 8th and 9th when they were massacred to the tune of over 40,000 people in less than 48 hours. How could you expect the people to be the elements on the ground if they don't get the appropriate protection or cover? Right. We can only call to this action by people being on the streets again when they have that level of an equal fighting chance, not why the regime can deploy their thugs to murder people on the streets. That's why we needed to have the air campaign. That's why we needed to have the aerial protection. And I think that's where you can generate the element on the grounds that will not require the use of foreign troops doing that job. And in order to transfer to that, however, you have to have a clear message. You have to have a clear strategy of aiming for putting an end to this regime, allowing for people to revolt, allowing for elements within the military and security forces to defect and join with the people. All of that has to be coordinated as a coherent strategy. You cannot send mixed signals. On the one hand, say people need to rise, and at the same time say, wait, we are negotiating. It's confusing the hell out of everyone. And I think this is the kind of issue that has been a little bit a concern for all of us watching and observing how the situation is unfolding.
You know, it's impossible to know the exact death toll right now, but thousands of Iranian citizens, including children, have been killed as a result of this war. Do you think a return to a bombing campaign is worth the price on the ground?
Look, hitting the regime where it hurts is the infrastructure that the regime is using against its own citizenry. The targeting that we saw was clearly an element that aimed at neutralizing elements that.
So, guys, I know she's asking. When you say, I know some of you getting upset by that question, but she's asking it to have that answer out there. Like, she's not as bad as those other people that you think. Like, she's it's important for Princess Pahlavi be given the opportunity to give the proper response to these so that everybody knows what the proper response are.
The regime would use as elements of coercion or repression of its own citizenry, obviously targeting the intelligence apparatus of the state, the IRGC or anything attached to that. This is exactly what the people were, in fact, happy to see happen. People are smart enough to know the difference between being attacked as a nation as opposed to the regime being attacked.
Yes.
And clearly that campaign was not an attack against the nation, it was an attack against the
regime. Do you think there's any risk, though, of radicalizing some in the Iranian population against the US and Israel as a result of
That's
these
not
attacks?
what we hear inside Iran. In fact, again, one of the reasons the regime wants a total internet blackout is that people like yourselves won't hear what the people in Iran actually have.
This is actually the perfect response to this question, right? So if you're saying, like, what if the Iranian people are moving away from the regime, like moving towards the regime, they're becoming supporting the regime, what if there's a rally around the flag effect? The best way, see, this is why Princess Pahlavi is good to ask him this question so we have the response. The best, because you could claim things and people are like, okay, that's your claim, but you're so anti-Islamic Republic, how do we believe you? The best thing to point out is the internet blackout, okay? Because it's obvious that if the regime had the support of the Iranian people, they would want the world to know it. They would not cut the internet because cutting the internet would not benefit them. The only reason why you would cut the internet to silence the Iranian people is if the Iranian people are not on your side and what they say would be against you. So that's why it's good not to just claim these things like, oh, the Iranian people are not supporting the regime even after the military operations. That is true, but what is the evidence? The evidence is the internet blackout. The evidence is the internet blackout. That proves that the regime doesn't want you to hear from the Iranian people. That proves that the Iranian people are against the regime. And this is why Princess Pahlavi knows exactly how to respond to these questions.
Have to say about this. The narrative is controlled completely by the regime, and that's what it's trying to push, whether it's the mainstream media in the outside world, to lead you to believe that people are in fact rejecting that intervention. It's actually quite the opposite. Of course, there are some elements that are affiliated with the regime that will take a contrary viewpoints, but the majority of the Iranian people look at this as a liberation campaign.
Oh, by the way, guys, we have new reports. Confirmed reports that the Islamic Republic is offering internet to people who come with a picture of Mujtaba Khamenei into the streets and participate in protests. That is a new form of payment for showing up to protests.
They're saying to people that if you want access to internet, you have to post pro-regime propaganda in order to get access to internet. Yeah.
Exactly. Okay. What that is, yeah, exactly. That is sick and pathetic. You guys are right in the chat.
Imagine the circumstances during the Second World War. Imagine you were a French person who was living under the occupation of a Nazi regime. And when the Allies disembarked on the British of Normandy, that was a campaign for liberation of a country that would otherwise have to face Hitler and his regime. In this case, we are dealing with a regime that has from the very beginning taken our compatriots as their first hostages and have kept them behind bars. This intervention is a liberation for us. So it's a welcome act that will help us finally get rid of this regime, which is the final ask of the Iranian people. They've had it with this regime. They no longer want it. This regime is totally illegitimate. It's just trying to use coercion and fear to maintain itself in power and try to buy time and ride the storm so there's no longer a Bibi Netanyahu in Jerusalem or a Donald Trump in the White House that could really put pressure on this regime. That's why tactically they're just trying to buy time, and that has always been their modus operandi in all these years.
The strikes, unfortunately, have not exclusively hit the regime and the regime's infrastructure. There's been reporting that hundreds of civilians, including 200 school children, were killed in a single strike. President Trump has also threatened to destroy Iran's civilian infrastructure and, quote, wipe out Iran's civilization if the Iranian government didn't make a deal Do you think that kind of rhetoric is appropriate, even as a negotiating tactic?
No, it's not, because again, it's part of sending the missed signal. Are you here to liberate us or further hurt us? What hurts our nation is its, of course, civilian infrastructure. What helps us is when you hit the regime and its infrastructure. I'm trying to separate the two from each other. And yes, nobody likes to see victims. But then again, the regime has been using people.
Hey, don't interrupt. Don't interrupt. Let the answer. Oh my God. Like, what? That's so rude.
But do you think the US and Israel has done enough to separate those two?
Well, that's what I'm trying to address.
Yeah, that's what he's trying to address. Okay, this lady is getting so... You get your answer if you just let him finish. What the hell?
Look, when the regime adapts in tactics to use people as human shields, as they would hide many aspects of...
Also, like, have the United States and Israel done enough to separate the Iranian people and the Islamic Republic? Yeah. More like, have you seen the ratio of civilians to the number of terrorists, Islamic Republic terrorists being killed, armed combatants to civilian population? That ratio, the civilian to armed combatant, is extremely low, especially for any war compared to any warfare in urban areas. So yeah, that means that they have gone out of their way to separate the Iranian people and the Islamic Republic. And you see that not just in their words, but also in their action.
Their anti-riot forces, or whatever you want to call it, in public areas, including schools and hospitals, a little bit a la what Hamas has been doing in Gaza.
Also, the whole attacks on IRGC bases and Basiji bases and checkpoints was for the sake of the Iranian people's uprising. So the entire strategy has been to empower the Iranian people against the Islamic Republic, obviously.
Sometimes it's very, very difficult to have precision targeting without having every now and then these instances. It's very sad, but it's war, it's conflict. The sooner we put an end to this regime, the sooner we can, in fact, preserve more innocent lives from being destroyed in my country. I think it's important for the world to consider that to us Iranians, when you look at what's happening, it's an opportunity for us to get rid of this regime once and for all. And yes, we do need some outside help. And yes, help did arrive. And the campaign that was led both by the Israelis and the Americans, but to that extent successful to at least hurt the regime and diminish its capability to counteract about the people. Is it enough to solve the problem? No. And I think that's where we are saying that rather than thinking that this time you can come to terms with this regime, you might as well get rid of it once and for all and liberate yourselves from all the threats that it represents to you, but also at the same time help us regain our freedom.
But, you know,
yeah, guys, when the Americans were liberating France from Nazi Germany, some French people died. Unfortunately, they died. Some innocent French people died under, American military operations. This is like this puts Prince Reza Pahlavi in a very difficult position because that's just the reality, but saying it makes it, people could clip that and make it seem like he just doesn't care about Iranian people's lives. But that is a reality. It's unavoidable. You have to, the evil that is the Islamic Republic by far is so much more costly to the Iranian people than the collateral damage during these military operations.
At this point, President Trump has sort of backed away from the idea of regime change. But I had Leon Panetta, U.S. Defense Secretary under President Obama, on the conversation last week. He told me that he doesn't think this war can end without regime change. And while the regime has been weakened by the death of Ayatollah Khamenei and other IRGC leaders, it is still in place. I mean, do you think that regime change is a real possibility at this point, given how much they've shown they can survive?
And of course, it is a possibility, but more than a possibility, it is a necessity. That's what we need to really stress here. And yes, in this town, regime change has gotten a bad name. Why? Because, of course, it was poorly implemented elsewhere. Example, Iraq and Saddam Hussein's de-Baathification. This is certainly not the scenario that we are professing. Just because it was poorly handled elsewhere doesn't make the concept wrong. It is still a necessary step to be taken. And contrary to what we saw recently in the Middle East. What we are calling for is a smooth and stable transition beyond the regime to an ultimate secular democratic outcome. For that, we have a plan, we have a strategy. I have developed this on a 5-pronged basis. It continues to be an element of maximum pressure on the regime, maximum support for the Iranian people, maximum defections within Iran, and of course, part of it is the Iran Prosperity Project that addresses exactly what happens day one after the regime collapses. So you're not faced with chaos. There's no vacuum to worry about. It can be filled. I'm not getting into details here because it's quite comprehensive. But basically, that means that there shouldn't be the concern of, well, can the situation get worse? Are we going to face a chaotic situation? No, but for that, we need to assure whoever is looking at this, including here in the US, what it would mean to have regime change in Iran, how it can happen, what are the mechanics for it?
Yeah, I want to get a little bit more into the mechanics because, you were a big supporter of the widespread anti-government protests that led in part to this moment in Iran. At one point, you told Politico that more than 50,000 members of Iran's security forces and government had contacted you to defect from the regime. Where are those 50,000? It doesn't seem like there's a real internal opposition at this point.
Well, therefore, the time of the uprising. That's
Yeah,
what I
like,
think.
why would they come out now and be like, hey, like we're part of the defected forces.
Yes.
Hey, we're here. Like, why would you say that in an authoritarian dictatorship where that would actually get you murdered?
Yeah, come kill us before we could be useful. What the hell?
You know what it is? It's that people, and I guess, through no fault of their own, I guess, because a lot of people don't have experience living under an authoritarian dictatorship. They just can't, they have difficulty wrapping their heads around the fact that there actually exists a place where you can be killed just for saying that you don't agree with the government, with those in power, right? It's very difficult for a lot of people to grasp that fact, right? Like, unless you've lived it or experienced it, it just seems it just seems unimaginable. So she's asking a lot of these questions coming from a place where she's assuming that Iran is like a normal country and not a brutal totalitarian dictatorship where you have zero civil rights, zero human rights, and you can be killed at any moment for any reason or even for no reason whatsoever, and nothing will be done.
Yeah. Yeah, they don't have the frame of mind to be able to think about this properly. You're so right. Exactly.
Well, of course, I think that's the opposition inside Iran is quite diverse and quite united. And in fact, when a call to action on January 8th and 9th came, in all 31 provinces of Iran, people rose and came to the streets chanting the same slogans and as unified as ever.
But where are those regime defectors that you talked about?
Well, obviously, these are people who are waiting for the opportunity to peel away. It goes back to my previous point when I said, if you're sending mixed signals, okay, let me put it this way. Imagine you are a high-ranking member of the Iranian Artesh, which is the military, or maybe their counterparts within the IRGC. And you know that this regime days are numbered. You don't want to go down with the ship. You don't want to face the consequences of having to account for it one day towards the Iranian people. Some of them who don't have their bloods on their hands want to survive regime change. That's in fact part of our calculation, giving them amnesty, giving them the possibility to survive regime change so they don't have a fear of what will happen to us next. So looking at them as a solution as opposed to a problem to face. But then they would be hesitating if one time they say, well, what if we expose ourselves? What if we were to commit to join with the opposition? If it's a half-baked solution, if we are thinking that, hold on a second, they're trying to cut a deal with this regime, or they might be the survival of this regime because now diplomacy has led to sort of a temporary ceasefire or whatever it is, they will hesitate. I'm sure anybody with a simple, rational mind will understand the reason why they will not be fully committed, not because they don't want to, but because they still don't know if they have a firm ground on the other end.
Wow, this is so important. That means, guys, that there's a lot of people who want to defect, but because of the negotiations right now, they're not sure if this is if the toppling, if they're going to the toppling of the regime is happening, or if this is actually something that is going to go through or not. So that means, guys, that once we get closer to the fall of the regime becoming close to certain, we're going to see mass defections just astronomically rising. The main Prince Reza Pahlavi is confirming that the main thing that is making many of the people within the Islamic Republic hesitant is the uncertainty. It's not a lack of wanting to defect, is them being hesitant because they don't know if this is for sure or not. Interesting.
But if the message is,
by the way, his example when he said high-ranking official within the Artesh, and then also maybe his counterpart within IRGC, to me suggests that he is in touch. His team is in touch with high-ranking officials within the Artesh. Not all of them, but at least some of them.
You know what this is going to do, Armin? This is going to make high-ranking officials in the Artesh and IRGC look at each other and point fingers and go, which one of you is it? Who is it?
Ooh. And Goldie, also one reason that all the Artesh leaders haven't been targeted is because even if two of them are the people who are spies, by attacking the rest of them, you show which one of them are with us. So you should basically not touch all of them so that they can't basically figure it out.
And
right?
Exactly. And 100% I agree. But then also now with this statement, when you look at the boom boom bingo sheet, people are going to look at that and be like, okay, so like which one of these people is Pahlavi like speaking about, right? So the people who are left alive, right, they're all going to be looking at one another and they're going to be like, okay, like who is it? Which one of you is it? Right?
Yes.
So
and we know it's Ghani, but
do we?
Yeah, I'm just kidding. It's our boy, of course it is.
Oh my gosh. But yeah, you make a good point about the Artish, right? So if all of them were eliminated, let's say, except for the one or two that have defected, it would make it easier to point them out. So
yes,
interesting stuff. And this kind of, Armin, so what you said, your explanation, your theory, that lines up with what President Trump said a while ago recently, where he spoke about how they purposely haven't targeted the Artish because there may be some people who are more moderate within the Artish. And that lines up with what King Reza Pahlavi is now saying as well.
Wow. Yeah, actually, you're right. That was just yesterday. You're right that President Trump said that. Okay.
Clear that this time we're taking the regime down. The people of Iran will stand. You can now join with the people. You can now say.
So, Goldie, some people, well, how would you respond to this? Because some people will listen to what Prince Reza Pahlavi is saying, and they feel a certain level of frustration with America's position on this. How would you respond to that? Like, he seemed like some people would perceive that he's upset that there's even any negotiations happening by the Americans with the Islamic Republic.
I mean, I think ultimately we have to remember that President Trump is America first and will always act in the best interests of America. Prime Minister Netanyahu is Israel first and will always act in the best interests of Israel. And King Reza Pahlavi is Iran first and will always act in the best interests of Iran and Iranians.
Of course.
Yes. In this situation, where we are right now is that politically, the interests of Iran, and by Iran I mean the Iranian people and King Reza Pahlavi, the interests of the United States and the interests of Israel have all aligned, right? They've aligned on certain things, and they're the most important things. If there is any frustration on coming from King Reza Pahlavi, the frustration is based on the fact that the Islamic regime is murdering innocent, unarmed Iranians every day. And so this frustration comes from a place of wanting to protect as many people and as many lives as possible. So while I do think everything lines up, if there is some frustration, I believe that's where it's coming from. It's coming from sort of the humanitarian aspect or angle of it, because King Reza Pahlavi wants to see the Islamic regime face justice for their crimes against humanity. I believe that some of the frustration as well is not necessarily because of the way that the United States is acting. I believe a lot of the frustration is also from European countries that have decided to take the side of the Islamic regime. And those European countries are actively working against the United States and Israel, making the job that much more difficult for the United States and Israel. So I think that's where the major source of frustration is coming from. And, that goes back again to that video message he put out to the European leaders and European journalists, because they were focusing more on, either the past, or they were focusing more on the United States and Israel, but they were not focusing at all on the Iranian people or what the Iranian people have been going through under the hands of the Islamic regime. And, we even see that today, like Emmanuel Macron is like, oh, like I'm meeting with Pezeshkian, or, whatever, like we're
Oh my
still
God.
seeing European leaders meet with and try to, appease the Islamic regime. And, they're calling for an end to hostilities and, diplomatic solution, right? So I think that's where most of the frustration is coming from. It's coming from, the obstructionist European countries.
Oh, no, and not with America, not with America negotiating with the Islamic Republic. Not that much there, right?
Well, I mean, I think we have to keep in mind the negotiation is not for the Islamic regime to survive. The negotiation is unconditional surrender or boom booms.
Right.
And again, I have a feeling the reason that these negotiations are happening is because there are other things happening behind the scenes. And I believe that it's because President Trump is working to make sure that Iranians are being armed and being trained.
Okay. Fantastic. Thank you, Goldie. These are the things I wonder, and you clarifying it is really, really helpful.
Yeah,
So
I've actually made a YouTube video about this exact thing, which I'll be like uploading later today once I'm done editing it. So.
Oh, amazing! Thank you for that. Okay. All right, let's watch this part.
Defect and not having to worry about the regimes retaliating against you, that creates the opportunity. Now, we have cultivated these assets within Iran who have contacted us. Obviously, we have to make sure that their identity is protected, because if they're exposed prematurely, the regime will obviously eliminate them. So it's a very delicate process that we're talking about. And that is not just limited to the military and paramilitary infrastructure, that also includes the civil bureaucracy. We're thinking that the majority of the people currently functioning in the system should be part of the elements that post-regime collapse will continue to maintain the functioning of the state. So during that time, we can have the transitional government prepare the grounds for what will lead to the ultimate process.
Do you think President Trump and the administration understand the argument that you're making? Have you been able to have any version of this conversation?
Ooh, let's see what Prince Reza Pahlavi says to this.
With them?
Well,
this is going to show the level of alignment that we have right now.
I've been talking both to members of Congress and, of course, passing on these messages and ideas to the administration. I'm sure there are many people within the administration who understand a lot better what it is that we're talking about. Example, Secretary Rubio, who had met before he became.
Wow, guys, look at this. Prince Reza Pahlavi is confirming that within the administration, the first example that came to his mind where who understands this is what Goldie and I have been saying, that Marco Rubio is the best politician within United States with a deep level of understanding on politics in Iran, the Islamic Republic, and the Iranian people. And that's the first person that came to mind when Princess Pahlavi was, as he said, within the administration, there are people who really understand this. And he mentioned Rubio. Wow. Okay. So see, guys, that we were on Iran Revolution Live. We were right about this.
Secretary of State when he was a senator, who really understands what's at stake very well. So I'm sure there are many people within the President Trump's administration who understand or have a better understanding of what it is that we are suggesting. The focus right now has been, of course, what do we do, in terms of this negotiation? It doesn't look like the message back from Tehran is positive, at least based on what we hear is the response from the White House. But again, having said that, how long is this process going to be delayed? When is the deadline for it? And as a result of that, if there's no bargain, then what? Is it a resumption of the conflict? And then conflict with what aim? If the idea is to prevent America having to commit forces on the ground, reason more to now help the Iranian people so they can be the boots on the ground. But that has to be a clear strategy. You cannot have it half-baked. That's my whole point today, is to make sure that this administration, whoever is listening to us, understand that you cannot have it both ways. You cannot say, people will keep you on ice and we'll tell you when we're ready. In the meantime, we are attempting to figure something else. This is a very hard way to convince people that you're serious about it. If you're really serious about it, people have already proven that they're willing to sacrifice their lives for their liberation. They just hope that this time they're not alone, that they're not going to be thrown under the bus yet again. And I think this president has been very strong with what he's done. I'm only here to encourage the fact that stay the course, get the job done. And I know that today it's not just the Iranian people, but I think there are many other countries in the region who have been facing the regime's retaliation, who understand that as long as this regime continues to exist, the problem will never be solved, irrespective of to what extent you think you would have achieved some kind of a diplomatic solution. I doubt that the regime will give up its nuclear material. I doubt they will put an end to their proxy support. I doubt that they will stop funding terrorism abroad. These are the kind of elements, as I said, that is part of its DNA. So
So guys, that's very important, because from all the three things he just said here, the first one was the most important. When he says, I doubt the regime will give up its nuclear material, basically the nuclear dust, the 440 kilograms of 60% enriched uranium. That means that regime change is the only way. That means that Americans are actually much more aligned with the Iranian people, and the Israelis indirectly more aligned with us than many people assume, right? Because there's only three ways to get the enriched uranium out. Either the Islamic Republic has to bend the knee, surrender, and give up the enriched uranium, or the Americans have to go in and take it by force under very hostile, in a very hostile environment, or there needs to be regime change and the transitional government will cooperate with the Americans and take out the nuclear dust. There's only these three options. There's no other way to get it out. And the Prince, as we mentioned here, Prince Reza Pahlavi is confirming that the first option is very unlikely. That's what he said. The second option is also very unlikely if you understand the complication behind the military operations and the engineering operations required to take the nuclear dust out of from deep underground, underneath tons of debris and all everything that is left from the explosions and the Operation Midnight Hammer is under all of that, and it's like it really very, very unlikely to be able to do that without putting the American soldiers and engineers under very, very high risk situation. So that option is also very, very unlikely. not impossible, but unlikely, that would mean that the only options for the Americans to get what they want is regime change. So even if they just want the nuclear dust, that means you have to do regime change, and that makes the Americans actually indirectly way more aligned with the Iranian people and the Israelis.
I cannot envisage the fact that the regime will be willing to concede on all those points and possibly be able to survive. Even if it is to satisfy their own base, they cannot commit to that. And their base is going to be exactly what keeps the IRGC in place. And I don't think they're going to relinquish on that.
So if the regime were to fall, you've been positioning yourself as the leader of the transition. You haven't set foot in Iran in 50 years. President Trump has said that.
I don't understand why they keep saying that.
How is he supposed to step foot in Iran? They would murder him right away. Like, what a stupid question.
If he was in Iran, he would be dead. Okay, any leader for the transitional government should be a leader that hasn't stepped foot in Iran for the past 47 years, because any leader worthy of being a leader that has been this consistent against the Islamic Republic, if he was in Iran for the past 47 years, he wouldn't be alive right now.
Armin, do you think that they asked Khomeini? Khomeini was like Khomeini, the garbage Muslim pedophile, was exiled for 15 years. Do you think they asked him, oh, you haven't been to the country in 15 years. What do you think you know about it? Like, what a stupid line of questioning. Obviously, he hasn't been back because he would be executed. What? Just because he hasn't been back, does that mean he doesn't know what's going on? Like, it's absolutely ridiculous, this line of questioning.
I mean, at the end of the day, the only people fit to decide who should be the leader in Iran are the Iranian people. And the Iranian people have made it clear that they want Prince Reza Pahlavi. So you're like, but you haven't been in Iran for the past 47 years. Okay. Has that mattered to the Iranian people? Like, what are you going to decide who's fit to lead the Iranian people? The Iranian people have bled for being able to shout out Prince Reza Pahlavi's name in the streets of Iran, let alone bringing him back to Iran. And you're like, but you don't have these qualifications, and this is why you're not fit. Well, the Iranian people think he's fit, and that's the only information you need to have. Oh my God.
He's not sure if you have enough support within Iran to take over. And you're
who's not sure?
Go back.
Who's not sure?
Let's go back.
Yeah.
So if the regime were to fall, you've been positioning yourself as the leader of the transition. You haven't set foot in Iran in 50 years. President Trump has said that he's not sure if you have enough support within Iran to take over. And
Did he say that? He never said that.
Yeah. So at one point, like this was a few months ago, at one point when they asked, the media asked President Trump about King Reza Pahlavi, he was like, I don't know. He seems like a good guy. I don't know how much support he has. Like, why would President Trump give that info away? Why would President Trump give away the intel? So obviously, President Trump is not going to put it out there, whatever information he has. So he's going to, just be like, I don't know, this and that. But now the media, she's interpreting that as if President Trump doesn't think that King Reza Pahlavi has enough support, which is ridiculous, right? Because President Trump has made it clear several times that he's not going to give away the strategy. He's not going to give away the plan in advance, because why would he want the media to inform his enemies as to what he plans on doing? Like, could you imagine if, and this is the thing, it's like one of those damned if you do, damned if you don't situations, because if President Trump right now is going to come out and say, yes, I support Reza Pahlavi, we're backing him 100%, then the same person here, Dasha, and all the leftists and communists and Islamists, they're going to come out and say, see, President Trump supports King Reza Pahlavi. He must be an American puppet. This is not a legitimate revolution. This is just, the America is just planting their puppet. The Americans are planting their puppet in Iran. That's what they're going to come out and say if President Trump says he supports King Reza Pahlavi. On the other hand, now that President Trump has said, I don't know, he seems like a nice guy, I don't know how much support he has, let's see how it plays out. Now, those same reporters are taking it as if President Trump doesn't support King Reza Pahlavi, even though the answer that President Trump gave is the proper and correct answer. And in fact, if you recall, when King Reza Pahlavi was in Munich and Christian Amanpour asked Senator Lindsey Graham, well, do you support King Reza Pahlavi? Like, do you want him there? And Senator Lindsey Graham said no, because it's not my place to make that determination. It's up to the Iranian people to decide who they want, and we are backing the Iranian people. But the left, the fake stream media, they're taking those answers, they're taking that narrative, and they're spinning it as if to make it seem that King Reza Pahlavi has zero support in occupied Iran. That's what's going on.
Yeah, and the quote, I think she's misquoting President Trump as well. Let me actually see what she said.
The transition. You haven't set foot in Iran in 50 years. President Trump has said that he's not sure if you have enough support within Iran to take over. And you're going.
Okay, so let me see. He didn't say he's not. He said, I don't know how he'd play within his country. I don't know whether or not his country would accept his leadership. That's what he said. And again, Goldie's explanation was spot on based on why that's we actually prefer that over President Trump coming out and picking a leader for the Iranian people, because it's not up to President Trump, it's up to the Iranian people. So that was the quote that I read.
Say that you're being propped up by the American and Israeli government. What do you say to...
Wait, what? Wait, she answered her own question. Hold on, listen to this.
Of the transition. You haven't set foot in Iran in 50 years. President Trump has said that he's not sure if you have enough support within Iran to take over. And your critics say that you're being propped up by the American and Israeli government.
Wait, that's like self-contradictory. So President Trump said he's not sure about you, but you're also being picked by the American government. Isn't that example? Wait, isn't that Goldie? Am I losing my mind? Isn't that self-contradictory here?
No, you're not losing your mind. That is 100% self-contradictory. Don't ask me to explain that question. I don't know what she's trying. I think she's just throwing random things out at him to try to see what's going to stick and what he's going to answer with, because that question makes no sense.
Okay. Yeah, pick one. Which one is it? Is he getting do you want Trump to support him and he's not, or Trump is supporting him and that means he's being picked by Americans? So you can't have both criticisms at the same time, lady.
What do you say to Iranians inside and outside of the country who want the current regime to fall, but don't see you as the next?
What did he say to them? Like, anybody left within Iran that doesn't support him, first of all, they're the minority, and they are either with the regime or they are the enemies of the country, because they're part of the leftist Islamic MEK alliance that are actually more anti-Pahlavi than they are anti-regime. In fact, I think they're entirely anti-Pahlavi, right? So we don't have much to say to them by this point. I think they don't want regime change. They want to just fight against Pahlavi. That is their priority.
Leader.
Well, I think that millions of people who answered my call are the living proof of the fact that I have tremendous amount of support within Iran. And again, as I said, the minute this internet blackout is lifted, you'll be able to hear exactly what the people in Iran have to say. As a matter of fact, right before the internet shutdown, my last messages were heard by the millions inside Iran. Just to give an example, on my Instagram account, the message that I sent had over 90 million views, and a couple of days later, it dropped to maybe 6 or 5 million. That's the people from within Iran responding to the message. So you can really map it and measure it that way. But then again, look, I don't think it is for any foreign government to designate who and what should be the alternative. It should be for the Iranian people to decide that. And
yeah, exactly.
what I am offering as a transitional leader.
That's exactly what Goldie just said. See?
There is precisely a mechanism and a process whereby it's for the people of Iran to decide ultimately what they want and who do they want as their leaders. We're just providing the opportunity and the grounds for it. But in order to do that, you have to have a plan, you have to have an organization, you have to have structure, and that's exactly what we've been doing. And There's tremendous amount of coordinations within Iran. I think that once we have an opportunity to rise again, that will be able to be an element to demonstrate to the entire world. And I think you have to give the Iranian people the benefit of the doubt that once given an opportunity, they'll be able to finally rise and take over their country. That has been our ask. We want to take our country back. We just need to be rescued from this cell that the regime has created for us. We are hostages to this regime, and sometimes hostages cannot free themselves without outside help. That's why we need the outside help. The rest we will do.
Would you go back to Iran to take a role beyond just a transitional leader?
Well, as I said many times, I'm not running for office, but I think the people of Iran have followed me for the past 47 years. They've seen that I've been always committed to the same principles and ideals, which has remained committed to. It's all about having a secular democracy, the democratic system replace this religious dictatorship. I think that Iran is a country that has proven throughout its civilization and culture how much it can contribute to the world, how much Iranians, unlike this regime, are aligned with the very same values that are often taken for granted in countries like the United States, the liberties that you enjoy here, and everything that we have that we'd like to have for ourselves inside Iran. It's an opportunity for us to make this happen. And all that is on my mind these days is that for a population of 90 million, and the majority of them are young, and in fact, most of the victims of the recent uprising are all in their late teens or early 20s. They are young people who are dying to have more than two ways. They're dying because they're sacrificing themselves, but they are dying to have the opportunity to finally breathe freely. This is what it's all about. It's something that puts us back on a way to flourish, to succeed, to progress, and to be part of the community of free nations, and the impact it will have regionally. That's why I say, when Iranians look at themselves, they say, as a culture, we are friendly to our neighbors, we are friendly with anyone. We have been a country that for centuries has been a true nation state, full of different ethnicities and cultures and religions. And this has been the Iran that I've known and that I grew up with. And it will be the same Iran, even better in the future, a country liberated from a singular doctrine and ideology that has discriminated against its own citizens from the get-go. Women were the first victim. Religious minorities has to flee the country. And there are over 9 million Iranian expats who are hoping to be able to return home and help rebuild our country. This is an opportunity for us. It's in front of us. But it's not just an opportunity for us as Iranians. It's an opportunity for the world to finally be rid of the biggest cancer we had to face for the past 4 decades and put an end to every threat that this regime represents. It's good for liberating a nation. It's good for America's national security. But it's also good in terms of economic advantages. Let's not forget, Iran is a country that for the past 50 years has been inaccessible by a variety of companies or industries in the West that could find another untapped frontier. Just in the first 10 years, we estimate that in terms of return and economic impact, over $1 trillion worth could be getting back into U.S. economy as a result of trade and business in Iran, and of course the opportunity it would create for us. All of that is at stake. There's no way you can do business with this mafia-like corrupt regime, and this is an opportunity that would be beyond liberty, beyond human rights, beyond democracy, beyond stability. Also a huge, huge economic opportunity that is going to be win-win for the people of Iran and in the interest of this country.
I am also hoping to understand your perspective on some factions of your movement that have received some criticism. 2 people who support your cause were charged with the murder of Masoud Masjoudi, an anti-regime activist in Canada who was also a critic of yours.
What?
Those people were Islamic regime people that had infiltrated the Pahlavi, the pro-monarchy groups. Oh my gosh, what kind of garbage question is that?
Wait, Goldie, can you explain to us?
Yeah, let me bring it up. So, um, so basically, there was this guy in Canada, living in like BC or somewhere. Where's like the news on this? So there was a guy in BC, this Iranian dissident guy. He was like anti-Pahlavi, like I don't know. I think he was MEK or something. I'm not sure, but apparently he got mixed up with like some bad people, and then he went missing. And then after, like, there was a big search, and then see here. So here's what it is. So there was a big search, and then they found his remains, um and police, like, the investigation is still ongoing, but apparently it turns out that the two people who are charged of with murder, they had infiltrated the monarchist and like the pro Pahlavi um, groups, I guess. So they would always attend, pro Pahlavi demonstrations, and they would pretend that they supported King Reza Pahlavi. But it turns out that they were most likely affiliated with the Islamic regime in some way, shape, or form. Um, and this guy, even though he was anti Pahlavi, I mean, that's irrelevant, right? But he was trying to expose IRGC people as well. And then this is the important part here. So Masjoudi's efforts to expose agents of the Iranian regime operating in Canada under the guise of opposition activists are believed to be the primary motive behind his assassination. So again, the investigation is ongoing. However, what's happening now is you have the woke progressive left, and you have the MEK and the Marxists and the Islamists. They're now just claiming that the pro Pahlavi people assassinated him, which is totally incorrect, because it is well known that the Islamic regime will infiltrate opposition groups in order to get information, and whatever else the case might be. So for this journalist to now claim that pro Pahlavi people were responsible for his assassination, when the investigation is still ongoing, by the way, right? The investigation is still ongoing, and all the information that's come out about the two people who are charged with murdering him, it all shows that they're linked to the Islamic regime. So there you go. That's basically the story there in a nutshell.
Even like I'm reading about this, and apparently he himself, Masjoudi, publicly alleged that the suspects that eventually killed him had ties to the regime.
Yeah. But the MEK and the woke progressive left, and all these anti-Pahlavi people, they're now blaming Pahlavi as if this is something that like the Free Iran movement did, which is utterly insane.
Yeah, you're right. Actually, I'm looking into it. The source that claims that this was the monarchist is NCRI.
Yeah, it's the MEK.
Which is the MEK. So this is the only source suggesting that the people who killed him are the monarchists is the MEK, and there's no evidence showing that. There's like zero evidence showing that. So we know who the suspects are, and even the own victim was saying that these people are regime people. So the victim was anti-Pahlavi, but he had identified the people who eventually killed him as regime people. Yeah. But it was only MEK trying to use this as an opportunity to try to. So wow, so this is not good research by Politico. Like they just trusted an MEK source for this. Let me see how she phrases this. Does she just assume this?
That is going to be win-win for the people of Iran and in the interest of this country.
I am also hoping to understand your perspective on some factions of your movement that have received some criticism. You know, two people who support your cause were charged with the murder of Masood Masjoudi, an anti-regime activist in Canada who was also a critic of yours. I want to be very clear that, you know, there is no link between you or your team and this alleged murder, but it does come in the context of a movement that has been.
But you did say they're supporters of yours. I'm not seeing that.
And there's no proof of that, because that the source for saying that they're supporters of Pahlavi is the MEK, which is a Marxist Islamist communist terrorist group.
Yeah, the only thing that the MEK is using to suggest that the people who killed them were pro-Pahlavi was the fact that the victim was a critic of Pahlavi. That's the only thing they have. But the evidence actually suggests that they are pro-IRGC. There's a IRGC link here.
And you know, Armin, I actually have concrete and solid proof that the MEK actually infiltrate pro-Pahlavi demonstrations for intelligence gathering and also to cause problems. So they will, like, you know, like the Islamic regime in the MEK, they are constantly infiltrating pro-Pahlavi demonstrations, pretending to be pro-Pahlavi people in order to then, like, you know, gather information or cause problems or whatever, and then pin it on King Reza Pahlavi. And I have solid evidence of that. I have like photo evidence of that. The photos that I took myself. Yeah.
Oh, amazing. So it's something that you can't share, right?
I mean, I won't share it if I don't have to. I mean, we all know that this is what they do, but I mean, I have photos. So if ever it came down to it, I could easily like share these photos to prove that MEK and Islamic regime infiltrate demonstrations.
Right. Yeah. And we also had in Germany with the mass protests, we had those people who came and tried to disrupt the crowds. That was one of them, right, as well? Like when they were, remember in Germany, we had the big protests with Amu Lindsay there. And there was reports that there were people with drums trying to do chants that it was different from everyone's chants. I mean, people were chanting, they were trying to do the drums. And then somebody from the crowd followed them to see, like, why were they doing this? Why were they trying to disrupt the chants? And the guy was like, oh, come hit me. You want to hit me? So he was trying to trigger the pro-Pahlavi person to beat him so that they could report that as pro-Pahlavi people being violent, right? So that was also an example of this. Okay. So guys, we will get to the super chats soon. Let me just finish this.
Accused of some harassing behavior. Some Iranian activists have told Politico that they've been threatened, doxxed, harassed by your supporters. A former U.S. official said your aides, quote, scare him. Are those actions from your supporters hurting your...
Guys, this is so bizarre because Prince Reza Pahlavi supporters have the best record of being peaceful. So obviously, among every group, they are the most peaceful one. So you cannot control everybody. You cannot expect everybody to be on their best behavior. Obviously, as if your movement grows so much to include millions and millions and millions of people, millions of Iranian people, everybody will be able to be at some point find certain Pahlavi supporters who are not behaving properly. Of course, there are millions of people. We have the best people in them, and we have some characters in them who are not so, they don't behave very well sometimes, right? But we don't have violence, okay? Among the MEK, we have violence, we have torture, we have terrorism, okay? We have assassinations. We have the most vile, disgusting things. Among the leftists, we have assassination, we have torture, we have bombings, right? MEK, the leftists, we have bombings. The Islamists, among the pro-regime people, the reformers, the hardliners, we have torture, we have assassinations, we have bombings, we have everything. But when it comes to the pro-Pahlavi people, the worst you have is some people being rude online. That's the worst thing that we have. That's the worst that it gets. Like, it's among all the groups in the Iran, they have the best record. They're the most peaceful ones. In fact, it's insane because there's the biggest group. They're like million. You would think because of the law of large numbers, given how huge their number is, you would have assumed that by this point you would have some more examples of violence among them, because it only takes a very, 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 very small percentage of them to misbehave for you to be able for our enemies to try to paint all of the movement with the same brush. But you don't even have that. It's the record is very well, very speaks for itself. So it's bizarre when people trying to be like, oh, the Pahlavi people are like misbehaving or they're scary. Every other group is like that except the Pahlavi group.
Credibility as a potential future leader?
Look, I've always said as a matter of principle, and I've been very vocal about it and on the record about this, that I always condemn any behavior that is based on violence or insult or aggressivity of any kind to anyone that is active. And, you know, I let my own supporters define themselves and describe themselves, but understand one thing. There has been a very, very orchestrated campaign by the regime to, in fact, create an element of discord by creating these conflicts within the opposition, trying to bring about these elements of contention. It's a very well orchestrated campaign, including trying to smear or discredit me.
See, that was what Goldie was just saying, guys. That's exactly what Goldie was just saying.
Me or my supporters. I think the majority of Iranians who are today working together are joined in one common principle, and the principles that I have sort of drawn as the minimal conditions to be able to form a coalition are very simple to comprehend. It's Iran's territorial integrity, it's the clear separation of religion from government, it's the equality of all citizens under the law, and the right for the Iranian people to determine their own political future. On that, we have a very wide, diverse group of Iranians who are secular Democrats. Among them are Republicans, are monarchists, are people on the left, on the center, on the right. And as such, it represents the bulk of the Iranian opposition. Are they extremists every now and then in the mix? Of course they are. This is something that is unavoidable. But their behavior and comportment, if it begins to be in the direction of what you say, have always been condemned by me. And I think the majority of people will say we don't want to have anything to do with that. And if it does rise, we do condemn it. I have, and I'm sure others have too.
I want to talk.
So it's interesting because Prince Reza Pahlavi, he goes the route of just condemning any misbehavior instead of falling for the, like, we need to come and say, like, look into the examples that these people are bringing up and basically seeing what happened and respond to it to figure out if it's a lie or if something actually happened that needs responding to. But I think it makes more for Prince Reza Pahlavi. For him, it makes more sense for him not to fall in that trap. It's our job as his supporters to go and find which one of these are a lie and respond to it. But I think Prince Reza Pahlavi just should, like, what he's doing is the best strategy for him. Just put a blanket condemnation of anybody who is, because that, if you chase that, if for him to go like, well, actually that report is this and this and that, then it will becomes a he said, she said, oh, he's trying to run away from this responsibility accusation against him. So I think what he's doing is the best strategy to just make sure that he says, like, whatever anybody's doing that is not in line with our values, I condemn that, and that's not what we tolerate here. I think that's the best position for him to have.
Talk briefly about President Trump's leadership. You've praised the president as a man of action and a man of peace and aligned yourself close with the conservative movement here in the U.S. Do you see Trump's leadership style as a model for a future democratic leader of Iran, whether that's you or someone else?
Well, no. I think right now what we're talking about is what is the president of the United States, the strongest, more powerful country on the planet, doing to alleviate a problem that could be a game changer for the entire planet. And this is exactly what we're talking about. Is he the kind of president who sees that as a result of what will put an end to this regime, what kind of a positive consequence that can have for the world to finally breathe a sigh of relief that you no longer have this terrorist regime that is out there threatening its neighborhood, threatening the world with nuclear annihilation, radicalism, terrorism, missile strikes, and so on and so forth, in exchange for a nation that will say, hey, we are peace-loving people. We want to be an element of stability. We can work with our regional partners, whether they are the Arab countries or the Israelis, to bring about the element that will no longer require America or other Western nations to deploy their fleet to maintain security, whether it's maritime traffic or anything else in the region. We can do it ourselves. This is what's at stake. It's putting all the negatives associated with this regime and instead bring all the positives that I'm sure Iranians will quite clearly prove to be doing that. So whatever the president is doing now is very critical, not just for what it does in the interest of the United States and its interests, but also how it can have an impact in the region. That's really what's at stake here.
You mentioned people are naming streets after President Trump in Iran. Israeli Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu also told CBS News recently, quote, in Iran, they name streets after me. They call me Bibi June, beloved Bibi. Is that what you're hearing?
I'm just saying that.
He said, Israeli Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu just told CBS News, quote, in Iran, they name streets after me. They call me Bibi June, beloved Bibi. Is that what you're hearing?
Well, I think there's ample material in social media that you can see to the extent of how Iranians respond. It's not just limited to the diaspora. A lot of people say, well, these are people outside, but also inside. Pre-internet blockade, that still exists in social media. You can do your own diligence and research it. It's already there. And yes, it confirms what you just said. A lot of sympathetic messages coming from Iran, praising President Trump and Prime Minister Netanyahu for having had the courage to step in and do something about the situation. And again, I hope that this internet blackout will ultimately be lifted and a lot more will probably come out as a result. To the extent that I know, in the meantime, despite the fact that for over 70 days now we've had no direct access to inside Iran, but some of the information that is trickling out that I have access to continues to demonstrate that the people are resilient. They're still hoping that this action will be taken to the very end. They still hope that President Trump will do what needs to be done, and the Israelis are doing what they can from their aspect. But I think now we can start seeing perhaps even more direction for some of the countries that have become much more, how can I say, vocal about having been now subject to the regime's retaliation. I'm talking countries such as the UAE or Saudi Arabia, or other countries that have been targeted. It seems that the regime has even further isolated itself, and as a result, we're going to get much more information coming out of there. So it's a combination of the immediate region, but from inside Iran itself. And this is something that will only reaffirm that the Iranian people know what's at stake. They want this regime gone. They are prepared to see even more action taken by foreign countries that have been able to act militarily against this regime. And this is going to be for us another opportunity to finally overcome the regime's means to brutalize us, to silence us, or to repress us, and finally break free from the jail cells and take our country back. As I said, this is a liberation campaign for us, and we hope that in this case we'll be able to continue having the kind of support we need to get that on.
Yeah, finally, I started this conversation by asking you for your message to the Iranian people. What is your basic, fundamental message to the people here, here in Washington?
The message is simple. How many of you happen to know an Iranian friend or colleague or family? I'm sure many of you do. And I'm sure you've seen how they have behaved, how they have comported themselves, how much they appreciate the country in which they live. As a matter of fact, have you seen all the demonstrations that have occurred ever since January in multiple cities across the planet, in Australia, in Canada, in the United States, in Europe, and the kind of civility that Iranians have shown? Every country in which they demonstrate, they respect the flag of the country that hosts them. If it's America, it's the American flag. If it's in Canada, it's the Canadian flag. If it's in Germany, it's the German flag, and so on and so forth. They're respectful and they're appreciative of the country in which they live. And they would probably have told you, many of them, that had it not been for this regime that forced us to leave our country because we were Baha'is or because we were Jews or because we were, not straight or what have you, we would not have been forced to live. And now we live here. We appreciate the country in which we live. They're educated here. They're working here. They're contributing to their respective societies. But many of them would like to be able to go home. So imagine the best allies or the best ambassadors that they can be on behalf of this time America vis-a-vis Iran, or as Iranians living in the United States, no matter how you look at it. This is a wealth of human resources. This is the true measurable meaning of what kind of people are we dealing with. Are these the kind of people who will represent Iran's future, or a bunch of thugs that are now terrorizing our nation and executing athletes or singers inside Iran just for throwing stone in a protest? What are we going to be dealing with? Clearly, you have a sense of a liberated Iran and what it will mean to you as Americans, or I think for that matter, other people in the world. And all they're asking is say, have faith in us, help us overcome this evil that has put us in this place in the first place. And, we look at America in many sense as a country that has been and has proven that when you create opportunities, when it's a land of opportunities, that's where people can excel. We would like to have the same liberties, the same opportunities that America provides its citizens to our own citizens. So it's really a partnership in more than one way. So I hope that this is the way that you take it and understand that we have a common enemy, and that common enemy is nothing other than the Islamic regime that has nothing to do with the Iranian people, that is not representative of the Iranian people, that has no business being in Iran anymore, and hopefully will help us get rid of this cancer.
Mr. Pahlavi, thank you for joining the conversation and the summit. Thank you all for being here today.
She didn't ask a single question about the January 8 or 9 massacre. She didn't ask a single question about the executions. Nothing. Wow.
That's actually a very important observation, Goldie. That's amazing. Yeah, you're right. And especially after Prince Reza Pahlavi's video regarding the European journalists not asking any questions about the Iranian people went viral, and she should have seen that, given that if she has done any amount of research about Prince Reza Pahlavi, who she's supposed to interview, that video would show up first. So it's amazing that that video has already gone viral and she still didn't think to add that to her questions. Unbelievable.
Yeah. But I mean, he did very well, as always. And, there's a reason why that, he is the hope of 90 million Iranians, because even under this sort of insane pressure, right? He always knows how to answer, and he always gives, the most amazing, incredible answers as well. So, yeah.
We have some. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, I actually have the full radio show lined up for this, but it's quite long. Before we go to that, can I just share with you something really quick?
Yes, of course.
So I wanted to share with you. Look at what Senator Lindsey Graham says about Pakistan.
Yeah, I saw that. Oh my God. I have that in my list too.
Oh,
you want to bring
perfect.
it up?
Yeah. Here, let me just I have it here. So guys, look at this. And guys, keep in mind, remember what Armin and I have been telling you about Pakistan. And again, we're not referring to the Pakistani people. Whenever we refer to Pakistan or Iran or whatever, we're referring to the government and the government policies.
Are you aware of reports that Pakistan are allowing their bases to be used to park Iranian aircraft, General King?
Sure, I've seen one report on that.
Well, is it accurate?
Sir, I think based on the variety of classification matters.
Let me just say, do you agree if it is accurate, that is sort of inconsistent with it being a peace mediator?
Sir, I wouldn't want to comment on that based on the ongoing
Thank you.
negotiations and Pakistan's role.
Secretary Hexton, if the mediator is allowing reconnaissance aircraft in Iran to be parked in Pakistani air bases, do you think that's consistent with being a fair mediator?
Again, I wouldn't want to get in the middle of these negotiations.
Yeah,
I want
well, I
maximum
do.
efficacy
I
for our
want to get in the
people.
middle of these negotiations. I don't trust Pakistan as far as I can throw them. If they actually do have Iranian aircraft parked in Pakistan bases to protect Iranian military assets, that tells me we should be looking maybe for somebody else to mediate. No wonder this damn thing is going nowhere.
Wow. Amazing.
He's not
Goldie,
wrong.
who would you? Not wrong. But who could mediate? I mean, not Qatar, not Oman.
I don't think
who?
anyone should mediate. Honestly, I think the reason that President Trump chose a country like Pakistan or Oman is because these countries are irrelevant, and these mediations, they can mediate or whatever, but ultimately there is a plan in place. And I think they're just using like some irrelevant, like some countries that are geopolitically irrelevant. So that's why I think that Pakistan has been chosen, because it's, in the grand scheme of things, Pakistan is completely irrelevant. And I mean, you remember, you saw what they did. Pakistan had this whole thing where they had like set up all these like posters and banners, right? Because there was going to be like 2-week negotiations, and Pakistan was preparing to be like the center of attention. And then when JD Vance and Witkoff and Kushner went, 24 hours later they were gone, and then 24 hours later Pakistan was removing all of the banners and posters and whatever they put up or whatever. So yeah, I think that's why President Trump is using Pakistan, because they're irrelevant.
So here's what Pakistan is trying to do. Okay, Pakistan has 3 problems when it comes to their image globally. When you think of Pakistan, three things comes to your mind. Okay, Islamic terrorism, poverty, inbreeding. Okay, and if you're in Europe, you also think about child grooming gangs. Okay, these are the things that come to your mind when you hear the word Pakistan. Okay, Islamic terrorism, poverty, inbreeding, and child grooming gangs if you're in the UK. And so Pakistan was desperately trying to use this opportunity to try to rebrand the image of their country, and that's why they were so desperate. They were so desperate to basically advertise what was happening here.
Yeah, I agree. All right, let's go to President Trump.
All right. Look at this.
And likewise with Iran. I mean, we've wiped out their Navy, wiped out their Air Force. It's just a question of time. We don't have to rush anything. We have a blockade, which gives them no money, allows them no money. And we just can't let, it's a very simple thing. Somebody said about policy, we cannot let them have a nuclear weapon because they'd use it. And if that goes off, you want to see a travesty. That would be unbelievable. So we can't let them have a nuclear weapon. And we won't. Yeah, we won't. And
okay, so we won't. This was recent. We don't have to rush. Okay, so the part of this, a lot of it was the same as what the other messages that we heard from President Trump. But the reason why this part I wanted to highlight this is this part. This part is interesting. President Trump is saying we don't have to rush anything. So President Trump is basically saying time is on United States side, meaning that because guys, right now there are 2 main games against each other that United States and the Islamic Republic are using against each other. Is the blockade on the Iranian ports versus the blockade on the Strait of Hormuz. So the Islamic Republic thinks that time is on. Well, I mean, they don't think they're hoping that time is on their side because the blockade on the Strait of Hormuz would damage the global economy more than the world is willing to tolerate. And the Americans' play is that the blockade on the Iranian ports, plus the other sanctions by, Scotty B, the other, all the sanctions on the financial institutions and all the other ways that they're trying to remove the Islamic Republic's ability to get paid for the oil and gas that they already have floating on the seas, from selling them and getting it back to the Islamic Republic. All of the loopholes they had around the sanctions, all of that is being closed. Scott Bessent is doing so. Other than the blockade on the Iranian ports, Scott Bessent is also working on closing out all the other ways that the Islamic Republic gets paid. So the game that is being played there is to make the Islamic Republic suffocate economically to the point where they have to bend the knee and surrender, right? So this is basically what we're seeing here is a tolerance competition to see whether the Islamic Republic can tolerate the Operation Economic Fury more than the world could tolerate high energy prices. That's what this is. And when President Trump says that we don't have to rush anything, that means that President Trump is signaling that they're comfortable with where they are at, and this could take longer. And if you actually look at the S&P 500, you can see that it's doing very well. We're up 8% in the past 6 months, which is crazy. We're up 26% year over year. But again, it's not the U.S. economy that is putting pressure on President Trump. It's other countries. It's the European countries and Japan, South Korea. It's the UAE, it's Saudi Arabia, it's Qatar. So even though U.S.'s economy is doing quite okay right now, even with the blockade on the Strait of Hormuz, these other countries do have some lobbying power and some ability to try to convince President Trump, especially these countries that I mentioned, Saudi Arabia, UAE, Qatar, Bahrain, Kuwait. They are not at all comfortable. Even though America's economy is doing fine, they're not doing fine. So that's the only pressure that the Islamic Republic is banking on to try to pressure the United States. They're not pressuring the United States directly. They're trying to pressure the United States through the Arab countries around the Persian Gulf. But it seems that hurt on the United States is not as much as the damage that the blockade is doing on Iran's economy. The Islamic Republic is suffering more. So, and that's why President Trump is saying that we're comfortable where we are right now, right? And this is why, if we go over here, here's another segment. Just play this one.
Do you really feel in your heart of hearts that you can stop Iran from enriching uranium and never build a bomb? Never.
Oh, 100%.
Okay.
They're going to stop. And they told me, the Iranians told me, and I deal with them, and they said that we're going to get the dust. I call it the nuclear dust because it's appropriate. It's easier for people to understand. And we're going to get it. The problem is there's only 2 countries in the world that can get it, us and China, because nobody has the equipment. Because when we bombed it, it was a total, that I was right, it was a total obliteration. The entire mountain collapsed on top of it. And they said, the Iranians told me, they said, nope, it'll be yours. But then they changed their mind. But they did say, because, they demeaned the B-2 bombers. Those guys, every shot hit. That we sent in Tomahawks from a submarine, they all hit. But every shot hit. And they demeaned the B-2 bombers when CNN starts saying, well, maybe it wasn't that bad. Iran told me that it was so devastating that no country in the world other than us, and they said China, would be able to, has the machinery to be able to get that.
Okay, so this is interesting because President Trump says they 100% they're going to give it to me, okay? 100%. So the reporter was like, do you really feel that you can stop Iran from enriching uranium and ever building a bomb? Trump saying 100% they're going to stop. And the Iranians told me, they said we're going to get the dust. Okay, so again, as I mentioned, there's three options here. Either the Islamic Republic bends the knees and surrenders and gives them the dust, or the Americans go take it by force, or we have regime change and the new transitional government cooperates with the Americans and they go get the dust. So this language suggests that President Trump is banking on the first option. Okay, this might be mind games. This might be confusing the regime. But based on what I know about the Islamic Republic, this is not likely. I mean, everything is possible, but this, I don't see that. Guys, in the chat, do you see this as a likely option for the Islamic Republic? Because, guys, remember also that we have official statement from Mujtaba Khamenei saying that not only they're not going to agree to any of this, they're not going to, the official position is that they're not even going to negotiate about this. Now, to be clear, they lied. They are negotiating about this. But I know they lie. If they say they're not going to do something, it doesn't mean that they're not going to do something. But because that's the official position from Mujtaba Khamenei, Mujtaba in quotations, right? We don't know who made that statement. Because that's the official position, according to the Islamic Republic, by Mujtaba Khamenei, that means that if they ever do something like this, it's the end of them. Like they will have no legitimacy among their own followers. That would be their end of their legitimacy among their own followers. And that's why they can't surrender, even if they wanted to. So they can't, they can lie to their people as much as they want. They can lie to the regime supporters. But if you get the enriched uranium out, then you can't lie about that. They can see that the enriched uranium is out. Okay, they can see that it's out, so you cannot lie about that. So that's why I'm saying that this is not an option. But what do you guys think? I would be interested in knowing. Also, there's another update from President Trump. And then after this, we'll go to the super chats saying U.S. President, this is by Iran International. U.S. President, actually, this is the report of what we just heard. U.S. President Donald Trump on Tuesday said Iran would stop enriching uranium and abandon any effort to build nuclear weapon, even as talks between Washington and Tehran remain stalled. 100% they're going to stop. Trump said during an interview, okay, so we know that. Trump said he had been directly engaged with Iranian officials during the talks. I deal with them, Trump said, and they said that we're going to get dust. I call it the nuclear dust because it's appropriate and we're going to get it. The president said the United States did not need to rush a deal. Okay, so those are the updates we had from President Trump. Those are the most important parts. Oh, one thing else that guys keep in mind. I've seen a lot of people think that, are we going to have an attack on the Islamic Republic before President Trump's visit to China? I mean, that's over now. Like, we don't have much time for that anymore. But that was the discussion. And some people were arguing that whether we're going to see an attack on the Islamic Republic after China's visit to China. But it's interesting that why so many people are assuming that you're not going to see an attack on the Islamic Republic while President Trump is in China. A lot of people think that's not going to happen. But why would you think that? In fact, we have seen that has been used many times by President Trump and Prime Minister Netanyahu as giving the Islamic Republic a false sense of safety and doing the attacks exactly when people expected for no attacks to happen. Like, we have seen this many times. So I'm not saying it's going to happen, but consider that, in fact, President Trump might actually be interested in doing the attack exactly while he's doing the visit, because that's when the Islamic Republic has its guard down and they expected the least. So some people think that would be hilarious. So, consider that as well. We already seen that twice happening with the attacks happening, but the Islamic Republic assume it will not happen, right? Okay, let's do some super chats. Let's bring us here so it's easier. Okay, so super chats. Thank you, Lance saying, harden yourself from future disappointments. No, whatever may not result in what you wanted, just know the enemy will be weakened to give you a chance. Yes, I agree with this philosophy. We have to hope for the best, but also prepare for the worst. 100%. I agree with that. And then we have Amir. Thank you so much. 5 memberships to the people in the chat. Thank you so much, Amir. Always being so supporting. And then we have Kuda 1169 saying, I love my president.
We like him too. We also like President Trump. You're in the right place. This
Yes.
is a pro-Trump live stream.
We have Iranian people in Iran naming streets after him. So, and then we have Aliyah Karpoor 556 saying, long live Iran, long live the Shah. Well, thank you. Yes, I agree with that. Javid Shah. Yeah, exactly. Payande Iran. And then we have William saying, I love what? Banner on the bottom. Oh, the banner on the bottom. Yes.
The banner on the bottom has always been there.
Yeah, no, that's not new. Is that new, or have I been so focused on the events that I failed to notice? Yes, you have been so focused on the events that you didn't notice it. It has always been there. Wow, that's a lot of focus. Oh, and then another super chat by William saying Al Jazeera of the West. Oh, Politico. You're saying Politico is Al Jazeera of the West. Okay. I thought that was Axios. And then we have another super chat by Aliyah. No, it's not Aliyah. It's Ali. It's Ali Asgharpour. Okay. Sorry. I don't know where the name stops and the last name begins. Okay, it's Ali. Okay, Ali saying, together with Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi, we will liberate Iran. Yes, Javid Shah. And then Ali Asgharpour also gave us another. Oh, no, he's a member for 1 month saying, long live Iran, long live the Shah. And then we have Aris. Yes, I'm just going to call you Aris because I don't know when the name starts and the last name starts. Okay, Aris is saying time is running out.
It's
Trump won't be.
It's Aristotle or Plato.
Oh, Aristotle or Plato. Okay, sorry. Sorry, I just said. So Aristotle is saying Aristotle or Plato. Okay, so take your pick. Saying time is running out. Trump won't be POTUS forever. Oh. Yeah, okay, yeah. Well, time is running out even faster because, I know the midterms is not going to completely stop President Trump from doing what he wants to, but it's going to make his job, if the Democrats win a lot, it's going to make President Trump's job very difficult. So time is running out even faster because of the midterms. And then we have another super chat by Justin saying, I'm beginning to believe Trump has some kind of plan in talks with Xi this week that will greatly impact the IRGC's efforts. I hope you're right. I hope you're correct. We were talking about that. Kuda is saying he usually waits till markets close on Friday. That's true. Yes, that's also true. Not always, but usually you're correct. Andy is saying, have you seen the new Hamed Fard video featuring the camp cardboard leader and others? It's brilliant. I haven't. Oh my God, I'm gonna go check it out.
Should we pull it up right now? It's about 3 minutes, and Hamed Fard's videos are not copyright strike, so that's a good thing about Hamed. All right, so
thank you.
I've pulled it up. Wait, let me do this. So I think, Andy, this is the one you're talking about, right? Because this is the newest one that I see. So, all right, let's go to Hamed Fard's video. It's about 3 minutes long. So he raps in Persian. The song is called Mushtaba.
یادتان آمد که میگفتیم بادک میزنیم آخرش به گورتان تا صبح تنبک میزنیم حوزه هاتون رو تو بالتای شهری میکنیم مرقد آقای جونیتون رو قلتک میزنیم مشتبا 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 موش میسم موش مسعود مشتبا هر کجا که نامه موشاست موشک میزنه دیر فهمیدی زمین گرد از دور ارزشی خوب ارعب کن که ما داری یک میزنه لایتان باز جمهور توبانو که همان لا میزنه روی منبر بر دهان هرچه ملا میزنه هرچه خائن در وطن باشد سپاهی ارتشی ما سپهرانی تیر را جای بابا میزنه جای بابا میزنه جای بابا میزنه جای بابا جای بابا جای بابا میزنه جای بابا میزنه جای بابا میزنه جای بابا جای بابا جای بابا میزنه عبرت تاریخ میسازیم از کشتارتان لاشه گندیدتان را روی چندک میزنیم اندک اندک خونتان را توی شیشه میکنیم هرچه کتله میبزیم بانان سندک میزنیم
Oh, I know that kid.
زمانی میگذاریم ما تو چون ارزشی
that's Qasim Soleimani's daughter.
داری میله ایجا میزنه همزمان نرمش کنان ورزش کنان گرمش کنان روی قبر مرده هاتون باره vodka میزنه مجریان خاینان
That's guy.
هم صدا را میکنیم و هم به سیما میزنیم من نمیدانم چه معنا میشه بدایتون ناتینگ آمنه را میگذاریم روی ژیلا میزنیم جای بابا میزنیم جای بابا میزنیم جای بابا جای بابا جای بابا میزنیم جای بابا میزنیم جای بابا میزنیم جای بابا جای بابا جای بابا میزنیم جای بابا میزنیم جای بابا میزنیم جای بابا جای بابا جای بابا میزنیم جای بابا میزنیم جای بابا میزنیم جای بابا جای بابا جای بابا میزنیم
Wow, amazing.
That was pretty
Amazing.
good.
Yeah.
That was really good. It was giving
That
like
was
Hey Dad, Mad Dog vibes, but obviously making fun of them, right? So
Yeah. That was
wow.
pretty good. Glad that you showed it to us, Andy. That was pretty good. That was pretty good.
So guys, I've
Oh.
I've already added this to the Iran Revolution live like playlist. So all the songs and music videos and other videos related to Iran Revolution live, you can go and find it there. I've added it to that playlist as well.
Oh, and also we got 3 more super chats from Voices of Iran in English. This is the channel, by the way, that is using AI to translate Prince Reza Pahlavi and Murad Vaisi into English using AI with their own voices. And he's saying, I include all His Royal Highness donation links in the Pahlavi videos on his channel. So if you guys want to listen to all the Persian videos in English, Voices of Iran in English has that. He also says, I include Vaisi membership link and encourage donation to Murad Vaisi and the ones that he does of Murad Vaisi. Another super chat saying, I need more Persians. You want her to include. Well, thank you. Guys, go to his channel and recommend. And guys, go and see if the translation is accurate because we want to make sure the translation is accurate. Go to Voices of Iran in English and listen to the AI translated videos and give him feedback. Tell him if anything is not correct. Also, I'm about to start our discussion group. So if you want to join us in our discussion group and talk to me, and today is open to all. Today is open to all. So not premium or VIP member. It's like open doors. Anybody could come in. And if you scan that QR code, it will take you to the discussion group. But if you want to watch it on YouTube, you could also just watch it on YouTube The link to the live that we're doing in 10 minutes is in the chat. You could also just go to the YouTube channel Liberty Politics, and the live stream for that is going to start in 10 minutes. And you could just watch our discussion about everything that is happening about Iran, United States, Israel, and in the Middle East, and anything else that the people in the community bring up. We're going to be discussing that, and you could watch it there. Or you could just come into the community and give us your opinions. And yeah, Goldie, when are you going live? So people prepare for that.
I'm going live at 7 p.m.
7 p.m.
Eastern. Yeah. So the live is already on my channel, the upcoming live. So I have a few videos I need to edit and upload, and then I'll be going live again at 7 p.m. Eastern to continue our documentary watch party and have a conversation about Iran and whether, you know, it was a dictatorship or a democracy prior to 1979. Yeah.
So guys, when Goldie makes these short videos, and they are actually the best to explain to people who might not understand what's going on a really good understanding. Goldie's videos are the best way to fight the propaganda against the Iranian people, or the propaganda for the Islamic Republic, or the propaganda against Prince Reza Pahlavi. So when you watch them, don't just watch them. Please also share them around as much as possible, because they are very, very effective. So make sure you are constantly looking for updates from Goldie, her videos, her short videos. And these are like missiles, like they're truth missiles that you could basically launch at your enemies and make our fight more effective. Okay.
Appreciate that. And just a quick note for people who are watching right now on Rumble, make sure that you're subscribed to my other Rumble channel, The Goldie Show, because I'll be live streaming on The Goldie Show, because the one that you're watching from right now, it's dedicated only to the Iran Revolution live streams. So make sure you're subscribed to my other Rumble channel so that you can see me live there as well. All right.
All right. And last super chat saying, I do this alone from Puerto Rico. I love feedback. Well, thank you for everything you do. That's very nice that you're doing that. I really appreciate that. And guys, go support the channel as well. All right, guys. So we'll see you soon. I'll see you soon if you come to the Liberty Politics live stream in 10 minutes, and Goldie at 7 p.m. Eastern time. And both of us will see you again same time tomorrow. Okay.
Absolutely.
So until then. Yes. So until then, I'm Israel Chai. Long live America.
God bless America.
Javid Shah.
Payande Iran. See you guys tomorrow.
See you guys.
غرق انقلاب است. کشور ما، تاریخ ما در سیدگر فرا گرفته. گویی اهورا مستا دوباره در نور خود مرا گرفته. اکنون سرودی سر میدهم باز کار رنج و تشویش. ایران غرق انقلاب است، به پیش به پیش به پیش. ایران غرق انقلاب است، به پیش به پیش به پیش. هن ای پدر، هن ای پسر، برخیز و با ما شو همگام. تا درد آن تجربه تلخ ما را نکشیده در آب. بگذار هر دم بغرند گرگ‌ها دم لباس میش. ایران غرق انقلاب است، به پیش به پیش به پیش. ایران غرق انقلاب است، به پیش به پیش به پیش. ای کارگر، ای برزگر، راحت قانون ادامه دارد. در این زمان که پرتو یزدان از هر سو بر تو میبارد. پس پیش به سوی آزادی از بحر خزر تا کیش. ایران غرق انقلاب است، به پیش به پیش به پیش. ایران غرق انقلاب است، به پیش به پیش به پیش. پا به پا بهر دفاع از استقلال و آزادی تا بشکنیم پشت ارتجاع تیریزی ویران آبادی تا زنده سازیم سنت‌های می از فرقانی و کیش ایران غرق انقلاب است به پیش به پیش به پیش ایران غرق انقلاب است به پیش به پیش به پیش
با امید روزی که تمام این دلبشو و انقلاب تموم بشه و ما در روشنایی، نور و سعادت مردم کشورمون غرق بشیم.
نه خارجی نه بیگانه نه مستشارهای ویرانی نه چیر خاران نه کاسلیسان فقط هم رزمان ایرانی تا با شرافت میهنی بسازی فهر فرزندان خویش ایران غرق انقلاب است به پیش به پیش به پیش ایران غرق انقلاب است به پیش به پیش به پیش مردان بیایید داخل صف ما اکنون که آغاز رویاست دشمنان بدانید ما زنده هستیم بعد از ما هم ایران پابرجاست آن روح شیطان ما را فریب داد با صد شعار مردمیش ایران غرق انقلاب است به پیش به پیش به پیش ایران غرق انقلاب است به پیش به پیش به پیش پرچم ما پرچم ایران غرق خون شهیدان روی شانه هامان هم میکنیمش در هر خیابان و میدان تا ماسک دلقکان را برداریم از روی تسبیح و ریش